Hi, I'm Dr. Erik Dewey, and my research interest is looking at games to increase motivation and learning in the classroom. And I get a lot of people asking me, Erik, can you recommend games for me to play with my family? Since we're all been trapped at home for quite a while, it's time to maybe look at some new games to play. So I have a list here of 10 great games depending on the ages of your kids, and just realize that these games can be used above and beyond those ages as well. So let's take a look at them. Okay, so for the pre-K to first and second grade age group, the first game I want to talk about is Habba's Animal Upon Animal. And really any Habba game is a good choice for this age group, but they all have these big chunky wooden pieces, and in the case of Animal Upon Animal, you've got all these different animals and they want to climb on one another, and so you're going to stack them on top of each other. And this game teaches a lot of great concepts to kids, like turn taking, spatial awareness, and hand-eye coordination for that matter. The second game I want to look at is Game Right's Rat-a-Tat-Cat. It's a fun little card game where you have rats and cats, and you're basically trying to get the lowest score. The interesting thing about this game is you often don't know what your cards say. They're laid down face down in front of you. And so when you're playing the game, you have to guess, do I have a lower score than somebody else? And you know a little bit of information, but you don't know a lot. And that's a great thing for kids to learn, is how to make a decision based on incomplete information. And much like I said, Habba games are great for this age group, Game Right games are also great for this age group. So for the older elementary school kids, I have some more suggestions. The first one, again, is another Habba game. This one's called Rhino Hero, and it's a really fun building game. You have these different tiles that will be the roofs, and you have these walls, and the roof will tell you how to place the wall, and you just keep stacking this up, trying not to knock it over. Again, it teaches turn-taking, risk assessment. It also teaches hand-eye coordination as well. Another game, a fun one, is called Survive, Escape from Atlantis. In this one, you're on a sinking island and you're trying to get all your people off, and there's boats out there, but there's also sharks and whales and even a sea monster. And you're trying to escape off, and you get to control the sea monsters and whales as well. And so it makes a lot of fun negotiating with people. You know, if you let my boat go by, I won't use this whale against you, and other kinds of actions. And it also is a fun ticking time kind of game. Another great one for this age group is a game called Labyrinth. And in the game of Labyrinth, you're trying to move through this labyrinth and try and find certain items that you're required to find, little objects in the labyrinth. What makes the game interesting and tricky is the fact that the labyrinth is constantly changing. On your turn, you're going to be moving these pieces around, which can change how you can move in the labyrinth. And while we're talking about labyrinths, another great labyrinth game is this game here called the Magic Labyrinth. And this one, again, you're moving your way through a labyrinth trying to figure out where the pieces are that you want to acquire. The tricky part here, though, is that the walls of this labyrinth are invisible. It looks like this on the game. You'll notice there's a little ball bearing underneath. Underneath the game board are walls, and so as you move along, when you hit a wall, you lose your ball bearing and you have to start over. So there's a big memory and spatial element to it, risk-taking. Quick note though, the kids will rapidly figure out that if they just push slowly, they can feel the pressure of the wall. So don't let them do that. When they move, make them move full speed. All right, so for the middle schoolers and above, the first game I want to talk about is No Thanks. This is a great fun little card game. There's a newer version of it, so the box may look a little different, but the game itself is the same. In No Thanks, you're going to have cards from 3 to 30, but there will be a few of them that have been randomly removed with nobody knowing what they are. And on your turn, you basically flip over a card and decide, do I want this card or not? If you take the card, it's going to be worth points, and the winner of the game is the lowest points. But if you say no thanks, you have a bank of chips that you put a chip in and say, no thanks, I don't want that card. And it keeps going around with people putting in chips until someone finally takes that card. It finally becomes worth it, because each chip is worth -1 to your score. And there's a little other scoring subtleties, but it's a very simple game, but it's a lot of fun. And there's a big trying to decide, should I take this card? When's it going to be worth it? Is it going to be worth more to somebody else? And that's where this game really strives, is that there's relative values in some of these cards. And so what other people value, you may not value, but then you might want to keep them from getting it. So a lot of fun decisions to make in this simple card game. So I've taken a lot of games to schools, and the one game that kids always want to play is this one, One Night Ultimate Werewolf. The idea here is you have a village, and in the village there are villagers, and there's also some werewolves, and the villagers are trying to figure out who the werewolves are. And so at night, the werewolves are sneaking around doing their werewolfy things, and some of the villagers get to sneak around and see what other people are doing. And in the morning, you have to decide, who are we kicking out of the village? And there's a great bit of debate. There's a lot of you have to make decisions without having perfect information. And ultimately, if you vote out a villager, then the werewolves win. But if you vote out a werewolf, the villager wins. One of the great things about this game is it takes a literal 10 minutes to play. So immediately when you finish, you're like, oh, I want to play again. I want to play again. It does require someone to sort of control the game, be the moderator, but there's an app that'll do it all for you so you can play as a family. And it is just, One Night Ultimate Werewolf is just a big bunch of fun. One of the new classic games that you may or may not have heard of is Alan Moon's Ticket to Ride. And this game is a great lot of fun as well. You're collecting cards, trying to build train track connections between two cities. But nobody knows who's trying to get to what cities. And so if you get there before somebody else, then they may have to make a longer trip around. So there's that great fun of trying to beat out your opponents before they get to where you want to go. And it's also just a real simple game to pick up, and it's also just a big bunch of fun. And lastly, I want to talk about Downforce. Downforce is a fun racing game. What's interesting about that is that you have cars that you're hoping to win because you're going to get money for it, but you're also betting on who's going to win. So even if your car is doing poorly, you can bet on other players' cards, and they will be doing hopefully better, and you can still have a great chance of winning. The other fun aspect of this game is the fact that when you play a card to move cars, you're going to move other people's cars as well. And so you have to try and figure out the best type of time to play these different cards because you have different risks that are going to help. Is it going to hurt them? Is it going to help you? When should I play these cards? It also gives you an opportunity to practice skills of when to pivot. You know, I was backing one car. It's clear they're not going to win, so I better try and back another car. So a great fun skills that you can pick up there. Okay, so you can pick all of these games up in a lot of different places. Amazon, of course, is the easiest place to get them. You can see the links down below. You can also get a lot of these games in person in Target and certainly online at Target and Walmart. And then once other game stores and whatnot open back up, you can get these games here. But if you're looking for them immediately, Amazon, Target, Walmart are your best shots. Please let me know if you have any questions or comments in the comments below, and I appreciate you watching. Thanks.